Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathashala. I am Dr. K.R. Ram Mohan, Associate Professor, Head Department of Anthropology, Sikkim University. Today we are going to talk a module on the classification and the distribution of tribes. This module comes from the paper Indian Anthropology. So we all know that tribe is basically defined by various anthropologists. So the learning objectives of this module is to know more about the concept of tribe, how tribes are classified and distributed in entire India, and to learn the concept of particularly vulnerable tribal group, and some tribes are classified as denotified tribes, and the contribution of anthropologists to determine the tribal milieu. Now, being understood the concept of tribe, the essential and core feature, perhaps these tribal communities are as old as the civilization. That means that the tribal communities, with the distinctive pattern of living since centuries in various geographical locations of India, be it in the northern parts of India or southern parts or western or south or northeastern parts of India, geographically distributed in many aspects of their socio-political systems. So these indigenous groups are also called touchstones population, means the original. They must be there for ever long times in a same particular place. So it is often referred as the tribes are primitive. Primitive in a sense, they have not developed to the modern civilized world, or they do not have a state. State means a full government. So hence it is called a pre-state society. So how to study this autochthonous populations or indigenous populations or the oldest settled groups in India? The first one is that these groups are isolated from the mainstream Indian society. They are integrated, well-knit social group, and the backwardness of these groups. Again, there are definitional issues with this concept of tribe and tribal communities. If you look into the medieval English, a primary aggregate of people descended from a common ancestor. But if in India, if you look at this, it is considered as the Adivasi, means Adi means the first, Vasi means people. So people are living from since the beginning. That's why it is Adi and Vasi, Adivasi. Vanya Jati means people are living in the forest. This group has these two distinctive features. People are often referred as Adivasi and Vanya Jati. So English scholars have also tried to define what is a tribe in the late 19th century, especially Morgan, Henry Maine and Marshall Chalins, that these groups might have been social institutions but not a political one. And some anthropologists believed that these groups showed differences particularly in their political setup. And Marshall Chalins believes that perhaps tribes are the original affluent societies in the world. So taking these ideas further, in 20th century, particularly when the concept of theory of evolutionism is in the limelight, on the sidelines of this, how societies have developed or evolved culturally from one stage to another stage in a unilinear fashion. A tribe was defined as it is a homogeneous ethnic group. Ethnic means which is culture based. It is not only just a homogeneous that they are collective feeling, but there is a sense of identity based on language, that we all speak the same language, we share the same language, and there is an absence of technology or very low level of technology, only simple technology, only certain tools to which are related to their economy, that's it. No more technology has evolved in these societies. So taking these British definitions, Andre Bite has come out with his own explanation that a tribe is a large enough to be visible group and small enough to be mobilized for common ancestor. So if you look at how the tribal population is spread over in all the Indian states, to put it roughly, tribes in India or the scheduled tribes in India constitute 8.2% to the total population. It is a significant groups. 8.2% in the overall total population in India informs us that these people are there on each and every state except in one or two states. So every state has its own indigenous populations, more or less. Some states have bigger percentage, some states have lower percentage. So for example, in the state of Arunachal Pradesh, it is almost 65% of population are tribal population. Or even Meghalaya, 87% are tribal population. Or in Nagaland, 89% are tribal population. Followed by other states with 1%, 2%, 10%, 15%. It shows that all these states more or less constitute significant presence of these tribal groups or tribal communities. Now, how to classify these groups? Now, we come to know that there are tribes in every state, but how to classify and what basis we can classify these tribal groups? Can we lump all the tribes together that these are all same? No. Because if you say that all tribal communities are same, then the concept of culture becomes that all people have a common culture. It is not so. So tribes are classified into various categories like their economy. Tribes are classified according to their language origins. Tribes are classified according to their biogenetic criteria, their physical features. So Indian civilization broadly is a product of numerous cultures where every tribal group has its own ecological niche. Their economy is related to their immediate territoriality. So if you look at tribes on the basis of economy, what do the tribes do for their sustenance? So tribes are, in Indian, we can say that some tribes are food gatherers, some tribes practice pastoralism, and some tribes have started little bit of settled agriculture. So when it comes to food gatherers, absence of agriculture, and hence they go on collecting food materials from the immediate forest and immediate environment. And these people are confined to very remote areas of India, could be very small in size, and their people are all engaged in collecting the available food resources for their survival. And the next category of tribes fall under pastoralists. They eke out their livelihood through rearing domestic animals. And they sell these products which come out from animals, be it leather products, milk products, meat, skin, all kinds of products which are available from their domestication of animals. So if you see in the northeastern Himalaya, we have tribal communities like Kuki, Naga, Raji, all these are all distinctively have their distinctive economies. In central India, we have Birhors, Karya, Korwa, Jung, Maria are very famous in these central Indian geographical zone. And in South India, you have Kadars, Pulians, Chenchu, Yanadis, Bhagata, Valmiki comes under in this zone. So who are these pastoral communities? In northeastern India, Gujars, Bakarwal, Gaddis, Jats are basically pastoral in their economies. In western India, you can see Bharwads and Rasipotra. And in South India, we can see Todas are basically pastoral economy following since ages. And if it comes to shifting cultivation, which is distinctive, tribes like Malayer, Karya, Korwa, Parya, Sarva, all these do shifting cultivation, which is based on certain practices. And this shifting cultivation is practiced in Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura, which is basically popular in all the northwest states. And we have settled agriculture in most of the tribes followed. The central Indian tribes like Oran, Munda, Ho, Gonds, Baiga all have been subsistent towards settled agriculture. And apart from these things, we can also see tribes who do not have either hunting gathering, they are neither pastoralists, they are neither agriculturists. So these are all manual laborers. Usually they migrate from their own lands to other places in the search of livelihoods. Even the famous tribes like Santal, Oryan, Bhumij and Ho and many more tribes in South India and in Central India, North India, we can see them that these people are engaged in manual laborers in urban centers, in towns. For various reasons, it could be depletion of the resources in their own lands, and eventually they also become bonded laborers. And some tribes are still have their own unique ways of producing such beautiful handicrafts. So tribes like Nagas and Kasis are very famous in producing these handloom products. In terms of shawls with woolen, botias of follow this spinning and weaving of wool. They are famous for these wool products. Likewise, Kons, Gond, Savara, they are very good of this, producing some ornaments through various metals. Pottery are exclusively seen with these tribes. So, basing on the economy, and the kind of range of products, we can identify the tribal communities that these tribes of this area produce this. Like these are the pastoral tribes, these are the tribes who follow agriculture, these are the tribes who are based on handicrafts, and sub tribes due to depletion of resources go to manual labor. So one of the distinctive features that when we say that one community is a tribe, it is basically understood from an anthropological perspective is the culture. So culture is the visible objective to say that these tribes are, or when we say it is tribal culture. So Verrier Elwin, which is famous for his classic ethnographic works, which has proposed this philosophy for Nefa, has identified that tribes can be classified according to their cultural development. He says that in class 1, some of the tribes are original forest inhabitants. They are communally and economically strong. And according to Elwin, he says that the hill Marias of Bastar, the Uwangs of Kyonjar, the Gadaba and Bondos of Orissa, the Baigas and Koravas of Pandarias, and some aspects of Chenchus of Andhra Pradesh all fall under that these people are original forest inhabitants. Not that other tribes are inhabitants of forest, but these are the classical groups which gives us an indication that tribes can be understood just from the vantage point of their own culture. So in class 2, the tribal groups are made contact with the plain and the neighboring people, and there was some kind of cultural change due to contact with the neighboring communities. Though these tribes are very communalistic, they have a strong community bonding, but now they are changed into economy, a slow settled agricultural pattern, which is basically an individualistic pursuit, which is something not very communalistic, which has some features of profit motive. So in the third category, most of the tribes comes under this thing that they have abandoned their own traditional vocations, and even some of them have converted their religion and become Christians. For example, the Santals, Orans and Ho, we can find Christianity among them, which is not a characteristic feature of a tribe. They must have their own ways of worship and ways of or forms of gods and goddesses. But today, if you look at them, they follow to a certain extent Christianity. So the category of culture contact, which are slowly changing their culture, tribes like Gonds, Naga, Bills, are becoming landlords in their own places. Now, very interesting feature of tribes is their languages. So all tribes do not speak the same language. So as anthropologists, we should understand how tribes are classified according to their language, and how does this languages fall under certain categories or affinities. So according to Dr. Gerson, language can provide us with the ethnic affinities of tribal communities, and it is very easy for us to trace them by just knowing their language and their linguistic family. To which linguistic family this tribal community fall under, or how can we put them when we are classifying this? The first group is this Austric speaking group. It is classified into two divisions. One is the Mundari and Mon Cam. So in the Mundari speaking Austric group, we can see Santals, Munda, Kol, Ho, Bumich, Lots. And in the Monker, we can see Kasi and Nicobaris. We can also see a significant Dravidian speaking group. The examples are Kons and Malparias, which fall under the Dravidian speak. And to some extent Gonds, who speak Gondi. And another significant group is the Tibeto-Burman speaking group. The tribes of Naga, Kuki, Dafla, Miri, Bodos, Garos, Toto, they all speak the Tibeto-Burman linguistic family. So one we have the Austric speaking group, then we have the Dravidian speaking group, and then we have the Tibeto-Burman group. So on the basis of biogenetic criteria, can we classify these tribes? Yes, we can classify the scheduled tribes into certain biological and genetic features. So what is the relationship between these biogenetic features and the tribal groups? Blake and others pointed out that the geographical proximity of 11 major tribal groups in South India, particularly Andhra Pradesh, showed that they have some kind of genetic similarities. And he reported through anthropometric and genetic basis. And the Gondi speaking populations of central India. He said that the closer the geographical distance between population, we can see a close affinity of biological or physical features. The Oran of eastern India are classified as the astroloid tribes, and the tribes from South India, particularly the Todas, the Kota and the Chenchus, fall under different physical features. So when we study these tribal groups, we can make distinctive comparisons according to their biological identification in terms of their physical features. Now let us understand the concept of the particularly vulnerable tribal group. It is called PVTG and denotified tribes. In the previous terminology, some groups are called as primitive tribal groups or PTGs, but today it has been changed to particularly vulnerable tribal groups. That means these tribal communities are vulnerable for many things like exploitation. They are vulnerable for deprivation. Hence, these groups need special attention. And the groups like Kutia, Kons, Chenchu, Lepcha, Beiga, Shayaria, tribes from Andaman Nicobar are all considered as particularly vulnerable tribes. And we have 75 such tribes all over India, which are considered to be particularly vulnerable. And some tribes are considered as denotified. which they do not come under any category. They are neither caste group, they are neither tribal group. The tribes in Maharashtra like Berad, Batnas, Kalkadi, Lamani, Rajpardi, they are denotified. They do not fall under this any tribal category, though they have this constituent features of tribal features and tribal culture. So to summarize, tribes are not same, they are not uniform in culture, they are not uniform in economy, they are not uniform in language, and they are not uniform in the physical appearance. And tribal communities in India are at different levels of development. Some tribes have some sort of development, and some tribes are considered to as particularly vulnerable tribe, and some communities are not even listed as scheduled tribes. Having understood this complexity of the social life of these tribes, we should be able to understand why all these tribal communities are placed and situated and categorized into their economy, their pursuit of livelihoods, their language basis, and their territorialities. So with this understanding, we could able to comprehend the uniqueness and the complexity of these social groups spread across all the states in India, which comprises 8.2%. We need to devote our energies and attention to understand the significance of these social groups in India.